Grab your drinks and have a seat. It's time for serial killers.
I listen to our podcast every time I edit it. I speak it and then I listen to it. Anyways, hi, we are here. And by we, I mean, I'm T.
I'm Sierra.
And if you don't know who that is, that's not Jay. That's not Jay. Jay is not in town. And so Sierra has taken his place. And if you listen to Crime Bitches,
And if you don't, I don't know what you're doing.
for real, her voice might sound a little familiar because she is the co-host with me on Crime Bitches. She is my daughter. So we together are here to talk to you. If you're new here and you've never listened to our podcast before, this is not normal. Normally it's Jay, my husband, but now it's Sierra. And if you like us together, you can hop over to Crime Bitches or Crime B podcast and you can hear us all the time. But I need to say it as I always do. We are here to talk to you today about serial killers. See, she does it better. Jay, your dad goes like this. I'll go serial killers and dad's like like on purpose to make it sound not even good at all. But anyway, so that's what we're here to talk about. So if you came upon us and you don't want to listen to serial killers, turn it off.
Go to Crime Bitches.
You could try Crime Bitches. Crime Bitches is true crime and spooky stuff. So if you don't like that,
we've been doing unsolved crimes as well.
Unsolved. Yeah, we're doing all. It's like a plethora.
Basically everything but serial
Correct.
killers. And I'm gonna be honest, like money laundering shit. Like we embezzlement.
I
we don't
really
do stuff. We do the nitty gritty shit.
We do. So that's what we are here for. So we always start out every episode by talking about what are we drinking. So Sierra, what are you drinking today?
Diet Dr. Pepper.
Diet Dr. Pepper. Honestly, my favorite diet soda. If I'm going to have a diet soda, because it's about the only one that tastes the same as regular.
Although they do have, I will say, they do have the zero sugar Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, those taste
which I
quite
actually
all
like
right.
those because those are pretty much Dr. Pepper. Although they did just come out. Well, they came out with it like last year, maybe 2 years ago. But they're in stores all the time. My boyfriend even bought a whole fucking pack of them. The coconut.
Oh,
Dr.
your
Pepper
brother
ones.
loves those.
Oh my God.
Your
Because
brother
Safeway
loves
is
them.
doing their buy two get three free, by the way. And they have a zero sugar option. And
So,
it's pretty good.
I grew up
Very coconutty.
I grew up drinking Diet Coke, but what's crazy is I love Diet Coke, but I hate Coca-Cola, like with a passion. But I also, I'll drink a Diet Pepsi, but I hate Pepsi because it's almost too sweet for me. So, But what I'm drinking, I'm not drinking soda. What I'm drinking is a black iced tea from Schmarbucks.
Disgusting.
Schmarbucks. And so, that's what we're drinking. Now we're going to get on to the other part of the episode. The whole point of this episode, which again is to talk to you about serial killers. So who are we talking about this week? Before we get into it, I have to trigger warning this one. I have to trigger warning this episode. This episode does deal with child abuse, torture, mutilation, and sexual assault. So it is not a serial killer who kills children, though. The child abuse is about the serial killer's childhood. But we do talk about it. And he is not like Albert Fish where he killed children, but there is torture, mutilation, and sexual assault that he does do. So I'm giving you fair warning right now. If you do not want to listen to it, I will never judge you. I do not hold it against you. And I'll see you on the next episode. Now that we're all here, who are we talking about? We are talking about a man named Ricky Lee Green. He has 4 to 12 victims. His murder dates are 1985 to 1986. His location of his murders is Tarrant County, Texas. His method of murder is stabbing and beating with a hammer, and characteristics of his murders are rape and mutilation. Now, Ricky was born December 27th, 1960 in Fort Worth, Texas, and he had several siblings. He and his siblings were physically abused by his father, Bill, and by their grandfather. Now, this happened on almost a daily basis. Some of the things that they would endure is, so again, I apologize in advance, but this is important to the story. They would be shocked to their bodies, as in they were told to hold on to an electric fence until they would pass out. They would be punched in their stomachs. They would be held underwater to the point of nearly drowning. They were literally tortured, like almost every day. Now, at the age of 6, Ricky's father tells him, run, and I'm going to shoot you with a BB gun. So he did.
Sounds like somebody else in this room.
I did not tell your brother to run. And it was not a BB gun. It was an airsoft pistol.
And you aimed at his ass and hit his head.
This is why I don't shoot guns. Because I'm not trying to hit somebody in the head. But damn if I don't have good aim.
No, you don't.
So it didn't seem to matter how fast Ricky ran. He continued to be struck by the little metal BBs because his father continued to shoot at him. And his father basically tells him, you need to learn to run faster.
Where the fuck is this mom?
So the mother tried very hard to protect her children. She would get in the middle of it. She would block him, and then he'd beat the shit out of her. And at one point, she even took all of her children and ran, and he found them and brought them back and then whispered in her ear, if you leave again, I'll fucking kill you. So that's where the mother was. She tried her damnedest to protect her children. Now, it was also reported that Ricky had suffered another type of abuse, as not just physical. He also was sexually and verbally abused. He was constantly told that he was no good, that he would never amount to anything by his father, and he would sometimes be sent to stay with his grandfather. Well, when he was with his grandfather, he would be sexually abused by his grandfather. Now, at some point in his childhood, there is an incident that happens to him that involved a barbed wire, and I wasn't able to get too much information, but it looked like he was like playing actually with like his brothers, and a piece of barbed wire caught him in the eyeball, and like ripped out his pupil. And so he lost all of the vision in one of his eyes, and it does eventually get replaced with a glass eye. So he actually has like that on top of his horrific ass childhood. Ricky does attend school up until 8th grade. However, 8th grade is when he decides that he's going to drop out and he's going to begin to work as a radiator repairman. Then on February 18th, 1984, so he's about 24 years old at this point, Ricky gets married to a woman named Mary Frances. Now, while she is the closest thing that he really ever has to a true family, because again, he grew up in a fucking torturous household, their relationship basically was purely physical. There wasn't a lot to it other than the sexual part. So after about 2 months, there start to become cracks in their relationship, and Ricky believes that Mary is cheating on him and sleeping with multiple other men, and he becomes extremely unhappy with their relationship, and he turns to alcohol. Now, he also would drive around town a lot so that he wouldn't have to be at home because he was just really unhappy. On one specific evening after he had been drinking very heavily, he pulls a knife on Mary. And this happens when she returns home from work, and he proceeds to rape her. Now, after Ricky passes out, Mary grabs her stuff and leaves, and she never returns. Good on you, Mary. However, Ricky does not stay single for long. Just a few weeks after this happens, he meets a woman named Sharon Dollar. Now, they spend their first night together binge drinking and having sex, like just doing the damn thing. Sharon does ask Ricky to move in with her after they've just only been together for 3 days. And of course, he's like, absolutely. Now, he is happy with Sharon, but his drinking continues to increase. And one night, Sharon and him were doing some experimenting, if you will. Part of the experimenting was she pricks his penis with a needle.
Oh my God.
And then she proceeds to suck the blood off of it. And it is at this point that she and him discover that she actually really likes the taste of blood. And she's really like, okay, I got this. I got this. So on March 27th, 1985, Ricky meets 16-year-old Jeffrey Davis. And he asks him, do you want to go hang out? Mind you, Ricky is 25. Sierra, you are 25. Are you trying to hang out with some 16-year-old kids?
Every day. Okay. For the record, no. Government, when you're listening, no.
You don't want to be hanging out with the
Fucking
16-year-old? No, of course not. But now if you're 16 years old and a 25-year-old wants to hang out with you.
Hell yeah.
Right. Now, Jeffrey agrees and they start going around driving around town. Now, I'm not going to get into the details because I sometimes feel like when you get into the details in this specific scenario, I think people will judge, and I don't want them to judge the victim. And I think they will judge the victim, and I'm not going to put that out there. So what I'm going to say instead is that Jeffrey and Ricky end up having an altercation. Yes, something happens and Ricky gets upset about it. And so he basically decides this is the time that he's going to beat the shit out of Jeffrey. 16-year-old Jeffrey, and he's going to beat him up. Eventually, so he beats the shit out of him and then starts driving around still. And Jeffrey's still in the car, although it really sounds like Jeffrey wasn't exactly like, I'm not saying he was unconscious, but it doesn't sound like he was very conscious. And Ricky eventually pulls into a secluded area where he drags Jeffrey out of the car. He then puts him on the ground, continues to viciously beat the shit out of him, kills him, and then he uses a knife to mutilate him. And again, I'm not going into detail because I'm saving you guys. And then he disposes of the body in another secluded area nearby. But I will point out that the parts of his body that he mutilated and cut off, because he cut off parts of his body, he threw those parts into the river. His body is not found until the following April. Now, on September 20th, 1985, Ricky and Sharon get married. And yes, she supposedly knew about the murder of Jeffrey when they got married, because he supposedly told her because she was out of town.
She probably asked for the part that he threw in the river.
I'm saying. Now, on October 12th, 1985, Ricky is driving around when he sees a woman hitchhiking. He pulls over. He offers her a ride. She says sure and introduces herself as Montana. She is actually 28-year-old Betty Jo Monroe. She is also known to be a topless dancer. And a lot of the things that I saw said like she kind of was like a vagrant where she would travel, sometimes topless dance, make some money, homeless type thing. So Ricky asks her if she wants to go back to his house so that she can shower. And she's just like, yeah, sure. Now, while she's in the shower, Ricky goes into the bathroom, whips open the shower curtain and asks her if he can join her in the shower. And she says, like, sure, that's fine. I mean, I'm not judging this because she was a topless dancer, but also she was a traveler. I wouldn't be shocked if she did do like some prostitution for money because she was trying to make ends meet. So there's probably in her brain like, okay, yeah, she's using his shower and stuff. So this does lead to them having sex in the shower. Now, after this whole rendezvous between them, he tells her like, hey, I need to go pick up my girlfriend. Nope, I'm sorry. I need to go pick up my wife, Sharon. And she's kind of like, oh, okay. So he goes and picks up Sharon. Now, you can just imagine Sharon's surprise when he comes to pick her up and she sees this woman sitting in the car with him. And she's kind of like, well, who's that girl? What? And he basically tells the two girls like, hey, we should have a threesome. And so they all agree. They're all like, yeah, I mean, I guess why not? When in Rome. However, Betty then decides as she's sitting in this room with these two people that nope, she doesn't really want to do this. Now, in everybody else's world, when you don't want to do it, you just get up and walk out and leave the room and you say, no, thank you. And then you fucking let it go. No, not Sharon and Ricky. They say basically, no, bitch, you're going to do it. And they tie her up to the bed. She kicks and screams and fights like hell, first of all. They then, because she ends up biting Sharon. Good on you, Betty. So she ends up biting Sharon. And so this leads to them taking her off the bed and dragging her into the bathroom. And this is where Ricky actually attempts to sexually assault her and tries to sodomize her. Now, while all this is happening, Sharon goes into the kitchen and grabs a knife. She goes back into the bathroom. She stabs Betty. Then Ricky goes into the bedroom and he grabs his pocket knife. Then he goes back into the bathroom. And as he's walking in the bathroom, Betty is actually trying to stand up in this bath because she's in the bathtub now. They've shoved her in the bathtub. They've stabbed her. She's like standing up trying to get up and he stabs her repeatedly. He then leaves the room again to go get a hammer, comes back with the hammer, hits her in the head 3 or 4 times. And then Sharon hits her in the head once. Now, she was stabbed 17 times. Now, after Betty is dead, Sharon and Ricky proceed to have sex on the floor in the blood of Betty's. I told you. Kind of gross. They then clean up, put the body in the trunk of the car. They drive to a secluded area and they dump her body. Now, her body is found the next day. However, at the time, the medical examiners could not establish an identity. She was not identified until 1989 because she was beat so badly. Now, November 23rd, 1985, Ricky meets 27-year-old Sandra Bailey. She's going to a club. She's got a family member celebrating a birthday. She's heading to the club. She ends up getting in conversations with Ricky. I read multiple different versions of how this happened. And I'll be honest with you, it doesn't fucking matter. I don't give a damn if she was in the club, out the club. I don't give a fuck if he was sitting there in his car talking to her and she wanted to go home with him or not. I don't care. The fact of the matter is she ends up at Ricky's house. However the fuck she got there, I don't care. I don't care if she wanted to. I mean, I do care. I mean, let me rephrase. Obviously, I would not be very happy if she was forced there. But from everything I read, it doesn't sound like she was forced to go there. So like, I'm trying to focus on the fact that these people, these victims, I'm not going to allow us to victim shame them like they should have never gotten in a car with a stranger. You do you,
also,
motherfucker.
Remember the fucking time too.
Right. You're right. We're in the 80s. Like it was not a big deal. And to be honest with you.
Hello, Ted Bundy?
Yeah.
80s.
It's like these are the things that I'm like, okay, it's fine.
Fucking
That's what
normal.
people, right.
Now you see a hitchhiker and you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, because like I read one where it said that he pulled up next to her and was talking to her and trying to get her to come home with him. But then I read a whole nother one where it's like, no, he did do that. But then she said no.
Bitch, people in 2026 are
Right.
still meeting up at the club and going home. One night stands.
That's what
Hello.
I'm saying is that supposedly he followed her to the club and then hung out with her. And then that to me is like one night stand type vibes. Like that. I don't give a shit. You want to have a one night stand? Go live your life. I don't care unless you're Sierra. Then I care. But other than that, I don't give a damn.
Well, I don't know why I'd be having one night stand.
I don't either, but she's my daughter. So I care when it's her, but I don't give a fuck about nobody else. So she does end up back at Ricky's home. However, when she gets there, she figures out that he has a wife. And she's like, hold on now. You didn't tell me that you were married. And I don't think I should be here. So she's like, I'm going to leave. Like, this isn't for me. However, Sharon and Ricky decide that they're going to tie her up. And they basically repeat exactly what they did to Betty. She is stabbed 30 times and she is sexually assaulted. Then she is bludgeoned with a hammer and she is killed. They also then take her body and bring it to an area similar to where they had dumped Betty's body. And yes, they also proceeded to have sex in her blood as well. Her nude body is found in a drainage culvert and it's not found until December 2nd. So it's like a 2 weeks later, week and a half later, that her body is found. Then on December 29th, 1986, Ricky meets 28-year-old Stephen Pfefferman in a parking lot that was frequented by gay men near a beach. So this is where a lot of and again, back in the 80s, it totally fits the bill because in the 80s, if you were gay, it was like you were like undercover gay, but not undercover enough that you had to hide it. It was just you had specific areas you had to go. And then you knew that if other people were there, they were in the same vibe as you. Now, this time, Ricky actually agrees to go back to Stephen's home. Now, as soon as they get there, a little bit of fondling happens. Some things happen. And then there comes a point where Ricky basically tells Stephen, hey, we should take turns tying each other up. Or to which Stephen's like, okay. So Ricky's like, I'll start. So Ricky ties up Stephen. As soon as he has Stephen tied up, he pulls out a knife. And he starts to tell Stephen that he hated homosexuals. And then he stabbed him repeatedly. Now, Stephen was still alive after he was stabbed repeatedly. So Ricky goes and grabs a larger knife from the kitchen. He then stabs him in the throat. Then he proceeds to do only what I can actually describe as torture. I will tell it to you. It's really awful. So skip forward like 30 seconds if you don't want to hear it. He cuts him from sternum to scrotum down. And then he mutilates his body, takes body parts and shoves it down his throat. And Stephen was alive for most of it. So after he does die, because he obviously dies, but could you imagine? Like I said, that's why I can only say it's torture, because it's not even your typical like not a typical like, oh, you stabbed somebody to death. No, you tortured him to death. You stabbed him and then stabbed him again, then cut him open, cut off body parts.
Paper cut.
I'm saying cut off body parts, and he was alive for a lot of it. Like that's fucking horrific. So after he dies, Ricky proceeds to steal money from him, and then he leaves. He leaves him in his house. Now, apparently, after the murders that had happened, Sharon and Ricky's marriage starts to fall apart. They are both doing drugs and drinking heavily. So after a few years, Sharon leaves him. Now, the story goes that Sharon went on to get drug addiction counseling and happened to, through her counseling, confess to her counselor about the murders that Ricky had done. Not that
she was an accomplice.
Not that she had done them, but that she basically tells him, like, I saw my husband murder, or I know my husband, whatever. I saw my husband murder these two people. I know he murdered this one 16-year-old boy. Like, she tells this person, and this counselor, for those of you who don't know how it works, they can't call the police. They can't call the police and be like, I have a murder to report. They cannot do that. It's confidentiality. It's client-patient confidentiality. However, good on you, therapist, because the therapist, through conversations, encouraged her to go to the police with this information. And she does. Okay. So on April 27th, 1989, police surround Ricky's home to arrest him for the murder of Stephen. Now, Ricky had always thought that he would get caught someday. Like, he obviously knew that there was going to come a day where he'd get caught. However, he did not expect to get caught because of Sharon, because she turns him in. Like, he never thought.
Because she participated.
Now, while he's in custody, he admits to 3 other murders. And he is also questioned about 8 similar killings in the area. To this day, he is still considered potentially the one who did these murders, but he's never been, they can't connect it. But if there's similar killings in the area, it's really hard for me to believe that 2 people are killing the same way, right?
Unless she did her own killings.
Well, Ricky tells the police in detail about the 4 murders, though. And he also tells them in the beginning that Sharon had nothing to do with it. He said, she knew that I did them, but she had nothing to do with it. However, he does later tell them that she was a willing participant. Sharon, however, claimed that she was not a willing participant and that she was forced to participate and to keep quiet about the murders because she feared for her life, and he had threatened to kill her had she said anything and not participated. That is up for debate. I do not know. I do not know Sharon. I do not know her background. I do not know anything about her. So I'm not going to speak on that. I'm not going to say one way or the other, because this would not be the first time that we've had the battered wife syndrome become the defense. And this is not the first time that I would say that I'm not really 100% inclined to believe it. But I don't know. Sharon, because she's the one who comes forward, because she's the one who tells, she is actually pleads guilty to 2 of the murders. The 2 that she supposedly was forced to do, he says she wasn't. She says she was. She pleads guilty to both of those murders with a plea deal, which gives her 10 years probation.
What the actual fuck?
I knew you were going to like that.
Oh my God.
So again, I'm not going to talk too much on her because, again, I don't know. And I will say this much.
Hey, is she still alive?
I don't know. I mean, yes, I think so. What I do
hey, your ass should be in prison.
But here's the thing. Before we go down that road, I am going to say this. Not only did she get the 10 years probation, she also did not go and hide away from the world either. She lived her life as Sharon for a very long time. And she was very open and honest with people about what happened. She also has a daughter. So, and her daughter was alive and living with them at the time that all this happened. She has never been in trouble since then. She has never killed anybody since then. I'm saying since then. She has never, nothing. So there is that part of me that goes, I mean, there is maybe there is a little bit of truth to what she's saying.
Okay, I think minimum she should have gotten 10 years prison.
I agree.
Not probation. That's the part that bothers me. It's not the time frame. It's
I agree.
The actual punishment, probation.
I do agree with that, because at the end of the day, even if you are being coerced or forced into doing it, you still did it.
Taking a life.
Yeah, you still did it. And so,
and also,
yeah.
You were doing drugs. Like,
there's
other
a lot of
things involved that are illegal.
100%. 100%. However, I also will point out that she was doing drugs and drinking a lot. So there is a chance that maybe she was not forced into it, but maybe Maybe she was just participating because at the time, you know, when you're doing drugs and drinking, you're like, freedom, right? Like, you don't fucking care, right? So you're just like,
Right,
okay,
but that's
cool.
still not a fucking
I'm not.
excuse.
No, it's not. And I agree with you. I think 10 years probation is probably the easiest I've
Like
ever
I said,
seen.
the probation is the part that bothers me.
Correct.
I don't give a shit about the time
Had
frame.
she been somebody who was just a bystander who knew about it but didn't do anything, I'd understand 10 years probation. I'm okay with that. But when you actively did stab somebody, and you even said
and
you
hit
did,
them with a hammer.
and you said you did. You never said I didn't do it. You said I was forced to do it. So you do admit that you did it. I agree with you. I think she should have done some jail time. However, this is not about her, but I had to let you guys, I know people are going to be pissed about it. I was reading comments.
She should be in prison.
There's quite a few people that are very
or
upset.
have it.
She should have been in prison. Yeah, she should have gone to prison.
Even if she's not in prison now,
Right.
that's fine. But
Right. Now, Ricky, his trial actually gets moved from Fort Worth, Texas to Austin, Texas, because the media coverage was like wildly insane. And so they were like, he's not even going to get a fair trial because it's all over. And so they're like, fine. So they move it to Austin, Texas.
yes, so go to Austin. Like,
Yeah, but this
okay.
is in the 80s when Austin wasn't really big.
Okay, yeah, I guess.
Now, during the trial, the prosecuting attorney said, with the confessions, bloodstained knives, photographs, the likelihood of an acquittal is minimal. Basically saying, like, we have so much evidence, this guy's guilty. Now, while they're in trial, some of the jurors actually had to leave the room for periods of time due to the horrific nature of the evidence. Now, Ricky does end up getting convicted for the murder of Stephen Pfefferin. He was also found guilty for 3 other murders, which are the 4 total murders that I've talked about. But again, he is suspected in at least 8 more. After less than an hour of deliberation, he was sentenced to death for the murder of Stephen. And he was given life sentences for the other murders. Now, in 1994, he was given a stay of execution while his appeals were being looked into because they are allowed to appeal. And so what they do is, instead of putting you right into execution, if you're planning on appealing, they put a stay of execution in. You can put all your appeals in, and then eventually you run out of appeals or you die from old age, right? So his appeals end up all getting denied. And in October of 1997, Ricky Green is executed by lethal injection. It took 7 minutes for him to die following the drug administration. And he was 37, which is relatively young in my opinion.
I feel like 7 minutes is a long time.
No, sometimes it can take 10. I know you do this stuff in the vet field, but you got to remember they do. The other thing that I read about his, though, and I almost wonder if this might be part of it, because he was a drug user, they had a hard time finding the right vein.
A vein? Oh, I
And
believe it.
I guess in most lethal injections, they give you 2 IVs and they administer drugs like that. They could only do 1 for him because they had a hard time finding. But it did. I mean, it took 7 minutes. But you got to remember, after, because you do this in the vet field, the first dose of medication puts you to sleep. Basically,
I mean, if they do it how they do it,
they do.
Animals,
They
I'm
no,
like,
they do.
I don't fucking know.
No, they do. They basically give
For
them
all
something.
I know, they do it while they're awake.
No. They basically administer 3 drugs.
Probably propofol.
They give them 3 different drugs. I've actually seen the machines, and it's like one drug goes in and it makes them super relaxed and calm, and they fall asleep. Then the next drug goes in, which lowers their heart rate, I think, and then the last drug goes in, and that's what stops their heart. So it does. It can take time.
She was there watching with a fucking smile on her face.
Maybe. So his last meal was 5 scrambled. This man could eat 5 scrambled eggs, 4 sausage patties, 8 slices of toast, 6 pieces of bacon, and 4 pints of milk. That's a lot of food, but at the end of the day, if it's your last meal, you go to just stuff yourself, because what are you going to do? So anyways, that is the story of Ricky Lee Green. But as we do on this show and not Crime Bitches, I have shots. Now the shots for Sierra, because she said just literally before we started this, told me she does not listen to this podcast.
You know what? I don't think Jay listens to Crime Bitches.
So she doesn't even know what the hell shots are.
Whenever they're like, oh, did you hear the serial killer podcast that we do? I'm like, yeah.
She's an asshole.
Never fucking listen to it.
The reason we do shots is because we drink a lot of coffee with our episodes. So it's like shots of coffee. But these are little, basically, I used to call them fun facts. And then your dad was like, they're not fun. So I can't call them fun facts. So we have some shots, which is Dad's most favorite part of the episode. So first of all, one of the things that had been said is that Ricky, when he was little, now this is not to give anybody anything to be like, oh, that poor guy. I'm not doing that. Again, I do the background to give you an understanding. Ricky, as a child, after being abused by his father and his grandfather, could not understand how a family could hurt someone that they say they love so much. He specifically felt this way as a child. Now, the reason this is important is because I can honestly tell you, he is one of those people that I really do think nurture had a lot more to do with him becoming a serial killer than nature. I don't know if he was born shitty, but I can definitely tell you he was created to be shitty. Because yes, he has family members and none of his other family members turned into serial killers, but a mixture between his brain.
But also look at the girl that he was with. I'm not putting the blame on her necessarily, but we don't know her background. We don't know her story.
Right.
And hello, she's the one that would poke his penis and suck the blood out of it.
She did that one time.
Okay, but my point is, it's not like she was a fucking peachy keen green girl.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying my point is that
I'm agreeing with what you're saying. I'm saying his surroundings.
Yeah, I think because there are some people that
pretty fucking shitty.
They're born shitty. Like they're born shitty as hell. Like they wake up when they're 5 and they're assholes from that day on. He was not like that. So clearly, I mean, the fact that he didn't, I always feel like an asshole saying this, but the fact that he didn't even start murdering until he was in his mid 20s. He was 25 years old when he started to murder people. The fact that he wasn't murdering or doing anything prior to that tells you that he probably wasn't born with those innate feelings of wanting to kill, right? Like it wasn't like he woke up in the morning and said, I want to kill somebody or something.
The only thing that's interesting is I would have suspected that it would have been more towards men.
That's what I thought too. But we'll get there. That's what the shots are for. Now, one of the female jurors who was on the jury actually had to excuse herself so she could go vomit because the evidence was so horrific. Now, and then after the trial, some of the members of the jury received psychiatric care because they were traumatized by the things that they saw. That's how terrible his evidence was against him. And in June of 1989, so he's already in prison, Ricky actually went on a hunger strike because he wanted to fight the prison conditions. So he was like living his life.
Buddy, you dying. You shouldn't be on a hunger strike.
So this will answer some of your things. So this is a direct quote from Ricky himself. He said, "They all deserved it. They were kind of the dregs of society." Okay. Now, there's a little more to that, but I'll get to that in a minute. His final statement. This is his final statement. "I want to thank the Lord for giving me this opportunity to get to know him. He has shown me a lot and he has changed me in the past 2 months. I have been in prison for 8.5 years and on death row for 7, and I have not gotten into any trouble. I feel like I am not a threat to society anymore. I feel like my punishment is over, but my friends are now being punished. I thank the Lord for all that he has done for me. I do want to tell," and he never got to finish his statement because the drugs took effect and he died. However, according to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, they do have his final statement written. So they do know what else he was going to say, but he did not get to actually say it. Could you imagine that? You're like the family watching him, not his family,
I'm
but
pretty sure they're supposed to allow you to finish that.
I don't think they expected it to be that long. Because normally when they give you the final statement, they literally, if they want you to ask, say your final words, normally they're like, fuck you, I'm out, or they say some shitty stuff. But his either that or maybe they pushed the button too early. They were like, oops.
Somebody said, oops.
So I can't tell you what the rest of his, because again, he has a written statement and then he was reciting it when he was being stretched out on the table and injected. What the rest of it was. So it trailed off with, "I do want to tell." It finishes with, "I do want to tell the family that I am sorry, but killing me is not going to solve nothing. I really do not believe that if Jesus were here tonight, that he would execute me. Jesus is all about love. I want to thank all of my friends for supporting me and for being here for me. Thank all of my friends on the row. Thank you, Lord. I am finished." Now, here's my thing. I'm glad he didn't get to finish that statement.
Don't be putting the Lord's name in there.
I'm glad he didn't get to finish the statement because all he did was basically told them
fuck
he
off.
said, "I'm sorry," but then turned around and was like, "But it's not going to fix it."
The Lord would agree with me.
That's not very rare. I've seen a lot of people who are getting ready for death row. They do spend a very large amount of time talking to priests to try to get them in a place where they can be ready to die. I'm not shocked by that at all. But I feel like I'm kind of glad he didn't get to finish saying that shit out loud. Now, final shot is, it is said that Ricky believed that he was doing the country a favor because he was killing the whores and the homosexuals. However, here's my problem with that statement. What about 16-year-old Jeffrey? What about 16-year-old Jeffrey? You literally killed, for sure, 4 people. One of them was a gay man. 2 of them were women that you viewed as prostitutes, even though one of them was not. One of them could have been. But what about 16-year-old Jeffrey? How does that explain 16-year-old Jeffrey?
I'm not justifying what he did at all, but maybe a 16-year-old Jeffrey was gay. I don't know. We don't know what,
I mean, but how would he know that 16-year-old Jeffrey's gay? You know what I mean? Like, he met him and then was like, come hang out with me. Like, it's like that part doesn't, that's the one murder that does not match what he claims. He claims that he kills them and they deserve to die because they were terrible people and they were, whores and homosexuals. But Jeffrey was a 16-year-old kid that you met literally like down the street and said, hey, do you want to come hang out with me? That is not you searching for the dregs of society. So I'm not really sure. I know that's what he said. I know that he justified it that way, but I don't.
Okay, but he's also saying the Lord would agree with him. So, like.
He's not saying the Lord would agree with him. He's saying that the Lord would not kill him, which actually, if I'm being honest, the Lord would not kill him. That is a fact. That's actually true. If Jesus was standing in front of him the day that he was supposed to die, and it was supposed to be Jesus who put him to death, Jesus would not have put him to death if he was sorry for what he did. So he's not wrong about that. Period, point blank. And if you're not religious, that's fine, but that's just how the religious stuff works. So anyways, that's the story of Ricky Lee Green. So thank you very much for listening to us on this episode. Again, it wasn't Jay, it was Sierra. And if you like the way that her and I jibber jabber, you can find us together every single Tuesday. New episodes drop on Crime Bee Podcast, which you can find on any of the places that you listen to Fatal Blend. And Jay will be back next week. No problem. It's just he had to be out of town for work. But if you like what you're hearing, if you like listening to serial killers, then make sure you're following us. And if you are following us, but you think you know somebody who might actually like to listen to us too, share us with them because we really appreciate all of the downloads, the love, the share, and everything else. Other than that, I just want to thank you one more time for listening to me tell you the story about Ricky Lee Green, the man who thought he was saving the country by killing the whores and the homosexuals like an idiot. Until next week, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Remember to lock your doors and bar your windows. Until next time.